Alright, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the NeXT 2021 SC2 tournament European qualifiers. There we go, I got it, nailed it, one take. I am Titan on fire, and in the bottom right hand corner, ladies and gentlemen, someone who we all, of course, expect to always make it through almost every qualifier that he plays in from NC Sports, it's Serral. And in the bottom left, has had a bit of a rough run occasionally, but he is still currently the reigning GSL champion from DPG. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Cure. Of course, this is played on European servers, as this is the European qualifier. If you guys don't know how qualifiers like this usually run, with NeXT and with, tournaments like King of Battles, of course, when you have qualifiers, they are qualifiers for each server. That does not mean that players cannot play in those qualifiers if they aren't from or don't normally play on that server, but they will be playing with a big disadvantage. Despite that, you still see some players try and play in them. And the European qualifiers is one that is definitely a bit stranger because the time zone difference especially is really hard for Korean players. So you'll usually see Korean players play in the Korean and the North American qualifiers. If you have players who don't make it through in those qualifiers, so if you have a player like Cure, who of course is the GSL champion, who is currently, just tournament-wise, based on recent performances, looking like the most consistent and potentially the best Terran in the world, bar these upcoming tournaments with him and with Maru having made it through into them, with like TSL 8, King of Battles, and this. So you have Cure playing in the European qualifier, as he still wants to have a shot to get through. Now facing off against Serral, that's pretty hard, because Serral, as we all know, is one good Zerg. He's a very, very good Zerg, and playing against Serral, or with a ping disadvantage, is not something that you ever want to do, just because it's going to be hard. It's going to be very, very hard, even if you are, currently the best Terran in Korea. It's not an easy ask to pull out. We are going to see the Cure not able to get the delay on that third base. Blackburn, a map that's just not quite big enough that you can get that with just the Reaper. You do need to have the SCV over there to try and get the delay on the hatchery. And we're going to see, of course, the early micro battle between the Lings and the Reaper, and should result in just about net zero. Nothing really happening. And we do have a 2-1-1 actually from Cure. This is an opening that Maru definitely popularized in his run through Azu's Rog, where he ended up defeating both Serral and Cure, or Serral and Rogue, using this build. In fact, against Serral, Maru actually used the 2-1-1 every single game. He did not change up his build. Almost like went full Zest, where Zest finds a build and just sticks with it. Does not change it up. Does not do anything like that. But it's a really good opening, and Maru showed how to use it to great effect with the delayed 3 medevac drop instead of the 2 medevac 16 marine drop with tanks, and just kind of messing around with the timings, and it was a very, very good showing. And so I'm liking seeing Cure use it. I'm interested to see how he actually decides to use it, because there's a lot of different options that you can go for. You can go for a straight up push with 2 tanks, and a lot more marines. You can go for the 2 medevac drop, or you can even go for the 3 medevac drop, have a few marines poking at the front. There's a lot of variety with it. We did actually see a 3 supply depot wall at the front, which I assume is just a kind of choice for Cure here. Wants to build everything away from this main kind of really easily scoutable part of his base, so that Serral doesn't actually have any information that this is a 2-1-1, and we are seeing the 2 medevacs being produced at once. So it will be 16 marines, 2 medevacs, and stim coming across the map. Serral should have a Baneling Nest in time. You don't need the Baneling Nest to hold this. You just need enough queens and zerglings to get this around that you can focus fire down the medevacs. And Serral should have a pretty good idea that this is coming. Is already producing more Lings just to be safe. Spore crawlers down in case it is a Banshee. Just really making use of the fact that he doesn't have a lot of vision, and knowing what he needs to get in order to defend whatever the Terran throws to him. Ooh, I don't know if he's seen. Okay, we'll see it now. Sees the 2 medevacs, and that is all that Serral needs to know. 12 more Lings in the production tab, and all is pretty standard here as the third CC goes down for Cure. This should not result really in any damage. Serral is good enough that even with, you know, the micro ability of Stim Marines, you do have speedlings on the team, and he should not take an exorbitant amount of damage at the very least. As Cure, being cute here, gonna be able to kill off this Overlord that's just in this really annoying position that you normally can't get. You do have other Overlords, you know, very conservatively placed around the map. Just scouting out for any drops that are coming around. You do have a third medevac though that is joining this push with a Widow Mine in it. This is what makes the 2-on-1 a little bit more dangerous. If you don't push out with the initial 16 Marines because it gets scouted, you can add on more. And now there's going to be a bit more danger with this push as you have Stim, you have a lot more Marines. And it's just slow banelings for Serral. Of course, you're not going to have speedlings or speed banes. With this push, you're not going to have centrifugal hooks. Here we go, here stepping on forward. It's a lot of queens already out though for Serral. I mean, that's 10 queens. All of them brought down. Should be plenty enough to defend here. And Cure will continue to poke. Of course, you want to try and see if you can get the Zerg to misstep, if you can dive on top of a queen, snipe it down, and then pick up and get on out. And you do, of course, have combat shields here, so Stim forward on top of one of the queens, immediately snapping it down. Cure, a great play. Widow Mine shot, retargeted. Great micro there from Serral. Pulls the banelings away, makes sure that not too many more get hit, and now actually the queen's gonna come. They're gonna try and surround or cut off the escape path of the medevacs, get a full one. And some brilliant moves there by Serral. Completely negates all the damage that was possible. And this is the danger of the 2-on-1, is if you do end up losing all your units, which, I mean, Cure's lost most of them. Only sitting at 19 Marines. Now suddenly you have to sit back and you have to play safe because there's so many units for the Zerg to exert map control. And it's all a question if Serral really feels like he has the lead to do so, because right now he just has more than Cure. His army supply is ahead. Cure right now actually is producing, I mean, it's 3 Widow Mines at a time. Cure has actually added on a second factory before third barracks. That's how, you know, safe Cure is going to have to play off of this. And I think it is the right call here because you just don't have a lot as the Terran. And if you go just into bio production and you try and only produce Marines, you're just going to get run over by Lingbane, even with Widow Mines. So he's going to be adding on tanks as well, just get all the splash damage that he needs to make sure that Serral can't move across the map. Is going for these Widow Mine drops. This is pretty annoying, actually, as, ooh, both the Widow Mines and the main and natural get sniped. Serral really on point here. Finally, Speed Barrel comes out. 7 worker kills. 4 Widow Mines going to be dropped in total for that, but hey, it's decent damage. It's going to knock Serral back, who is currently already up to 5 bases. At the same time for Cure, what do you have? +1/+1. For your bio, you also have vehicle plating on the way. Serral, of course, had his +1 Carapace. It's just such a big upgrade to get if you are going for Lingbane to make them a little bit tankier. Another medevac. Come on through. Speed Bro doesn't mean that all these medevacs are going to, or all these Widow Mines are going to get out. Queen goes down. And the Widow Mine is on the chase. Ooh, at the same time, Serral surrounds down at the front, does take a fairly large hit there. But this Baneling run by, oh no! Oh, those SCVs! Oh, getting chased down, they don't take as much damage, but Serral cleans up a pushing force, gets damage on the other side. Only 6 SCVs go down. It's not a terrible loss here for Cure. At the same time, it's still pushing. Had that drop still available, but now Baneling's coming back in. Ooh. Cure taking losses here. And right now, Serral's got to feel pretty happy with the position he's in. Up supply, still on Lingbane, of course, but adding on the Hydralisk Den will eventually be getting into those lurkers. It's through the additional gas. Excuse me, the additional gas being popped down. And the +2/+2 for the Lynx. It's actually going to be ahead of that of Cure's. 8 workers have gone down, though. Oh, this Widow Mine. 12 kills to it. That's insane. Cure just making these little micro moves, you know, still can't push. Cure is still not in a position where you can push at the front. There's so much Lingbane available right now for Serral. But making do with what he has, making use with the small little groups of units that he has, these little drops. Being annoying is the main thing. Just drops 2 Marines out, you know? He's gonna get a few worker kills, because at the same time, he's distracting the front, throwing Widow Mines forward. Doesn't actually get very good hits with the first few. 2 of them triggered without getting any damage done. Now Serral's gonna commit on in. Takes a decently large hit. It's just 2 Marines. They've got 8 kills. Cure, these little moves, man. So good. And Cure behind us will be getting up to 3 bases, or 4 bases. Does have more barracks finally added on, getting up to a much more healthy number. No longer at 2, no longer 3. He's back up to 8. That's where you want to be. 8 barracks. That's your full production, really. And in the end, 10 workers went down from those 2 Marines. And it's just these small little moves from Cure that's keeping him really in this game and allowing him to find damage. Because if he hadn't, you know, been so aggressive with the Widow Mine drops, you know, into every single base, Serral would be just so far ahead right now. Because Serral still is winning the straight up fights. Serral is still winning by and large. And here we go. Drop on into the main base. Cure, what is he going to focus fire? Well, there's a Lurker Den right there that's just completely out in the open. Lingbane is already back, but still focusing it down. Lurker Den is canceled. Actually, not even canceled, just killed. Serral was busy placing it down in the back of the natural. Already has Vipers, and Cure is going to be able to spot that out. And that's a Fusion Core. That is a Fusion Core before a Ghost Academy from Cure. And of course, you don't know if that's just going to be for Liberator range, but I don't know. This is Cure. You have to imagine that's not going to be for Liberator range. How quick that is. Another drop here into the 4th base of Serral. Just being annoying, but at this point, Serral, sitting at 84 workers, has the gold base mining, has so much money coming through for him. Getting up into this Lurker, you know, Lingbane Lurker Hydra is not going to be hard for him. Has +1 ranged attacks coming in for them as well. Just gonna make them a little bit more efficient. 4 Widow Mine drop, heading onto the main. Again, still no Spore Crawler here for Serral. These Widow Mines are gonna be super annoying to pick off. Already gets 3 kills, has 3 more in the wings. Has to be careful with dropping these out. There's already Banelings here. Ooh, the throw didn't happen in time. The medevac goes down. And again, I like the moves from Cure. I like, you know, these Widow Mine drops. I like being aggressive with them, but you have to be careful. You don't want to lose so much that you just end up, you know, not having enough of that splash at home and the Zerg running you over. But right now, Cure in a solid place, and it is actually for Liberator range. This is not going to be for early battle cruisers. No, it's going to be for ranged Liberators. Such an interesting tech choice here from Cure, and I actually don't think even that base was canceled. Of course, Serral has a ton of money, but you'd love just to be efficient here as the Zerg. Widow Mine gonna be annoying. Medevac's being pushed to the front, and the gold base has gone down here for Cure. The 5th is, you know, on location, but you're not gonna be mining from it anytime soon. The Zerg is trying to push this. Has Lurkers, or doesn't have Lurkers quite yet. He's getting Lurker upgrades, but has Vipers. Can pull tanks out of position. Here we go, the bio getting surrounded on. Mind you, there's no Ghost to really get rid of the Vipers, but all those Widow Mine hits are so delicious from Cure. Serral still takes the better end of the trade, but does have to back up, and now Ghosts are on the way for Cure. Has +3/+3 for his bio. It's gonna be matched by the +3 Carapace and melee attack of Serral, as well as ranged attacks +2. I mean, Serral's just in such a good spot. Look at the bank. Serral here, you know, he can continue to trade because he has so much money, but here we go. Liberators sieging up. They do have range now. These Banelings just not getting good hits. Oh my, Serral, this was an absolute overstep. Had his army split. Just had the Banelings hitting onto just, I mean, Marauders and Widow Mines. That was not a good trade, and it doesn't matter how big a bank you have. As you see, Serral, 2K bank to now equal with the Terran. You just can't afford to take trades like that. Of course, Serral is expanding to even more bases. Blackburn is just such a large map. It's so easy for both races to take all the bases on their side. This is just how the games naturally go, is Serral looking for a surround, Banelings coming on in, are gonna crash in onto the Marauders, but finally get a large hit onto the Marines. There's so many Banelings crashing through. Cure dipping in supply, but does have the Liberators. Those are going to stop Serral from pushing. It's just, I mean, it's just Hydralisk left. Serral doesn't think he can continue to push with it. And Serral doesn't necessarily need to. Again, taking those army trades, whittling down the Terran. Bit by bit, it will work in the long run, but mind you, Cure is catching up in economy. Cure, right now, 90 workers to the 85, 86 of Serral. Is on 5 bases to the, I believe, the 7 of Serral, but still, you know, Serral's not going to be mining efficiently off all of those bases just because he doesn't have the worker count to. So he's trying to build such a strong army now. You have these Vipers, and these Vipers haven't been used as, oh, Lurker Harass, we all hate it. We all know it as Terrans. It can be so annoying. And 7 workers do go down for Cure. And you even have Serral expanding to an 8th base. Gonna be trying to snag up this bottom 6 o'clock base. It's one that is not taken often along with the 12 o'clock, but Serral just has so much urgency in this game to do whatever he wants that, you know, Cure can't really contest it. Again, Cure can't go out on the map. Cure can take good trades when he's in his base, but as soon as he steps on a creep, as soon as he steps out onto this map, past, you know, his 5 bases, there's nothing really for Cure. There's no real way for him to take a decent trade with the amount of link baiting there is, the amount of course, with the lurkers being added on. Only sitting at 1 lurker right now, just because Serral doesn't need a lot of lurkers, and you already have this massive Liberator ball for Cure. That, you know, lurkers aren't going to be the most useful with that. Now, you do have counterattack here with Cure. It is just a small group of Marines and Marauders. Should be dealt with quite easily. But the real question is, for Serral, are you actually just going to be transitioning this straight into Corruptor Broodlord instead of even going for the Lurkers because of the Liberators? I think that's the plan. Serral circumventing that tech, knows that Cure already had you know, his tech and transition ready for it. Just says, fine, you know what, I'm just gonna go instead into air, because those Liberators, they're not useful if I just have a huge ball of Corruptors, and he's absolutely right. As the yoinks onto the Liberators, a lot of them going down, but still so many left. Cure, there's so many Liberators, already 9. He's got more Liberators than Marauders on the map right now. Does manage to clear up these burrowed legs. But, oh, Serral thinks he finds an opening, and he might just have one. Is now in between all the bases, but the army is pulled back. And Serral dancing around with the idea of committing on in there. Decides not to in the end. Afterburners on the way for the medevacs. That's not an upgrade you see every day. Of course, increases medevac boost time, and I believe the cooldown between boosts, but it is not an upgrade that you usually end up seeing. Ignite Afterburners. Such a... But Cure, getting it now. Of course, it will be very useful if you're trying to get drops across the map quickly. 4 Liberators at a time, 2 more Ghost Academy. Or Ghost Academies. Cure is going to be looking to get on into nukes. And as the next stage of the game, it's already an 18-minute long TVZ here in game number 1. Ship weapons, personal cloaking, all the upgrades going to be coming through for Cure. All the upgrades going to be coming through for Serral. Is working on now his air upgrades, has the money to do so, working on +3 attack for his Hydralisks and Lurkers if he ever makes a massive transition into them, only sitting at the 1 right now that can be used for harassment and is being used to try and harass these SCVs. Cure finally going to scout the 6 o'clock base with a scan. Now knows that it's there, going to try and put it down, and should be able to. In fact, Serral, not even bringing any units to defend it, is instead hemorrhaging all of his units here over to the top side of the map to try and capitalize on the fact that perhaps Cure being a little bit greedy with how many units he's committing onto that side of the map. It's only 2 Liberators. Those can easily get yoinked away. Hydra's got to snipe them down. Link Bane committing on in, but here we go. The ghosts are here. Cure responds in time. Only loses 8 workers to that harassment. Doesn't even lose any Liberators. Kills the 6 o'clock base. And Cure is just taking great trade after great trade here, because Serral is in the position where he's the one that needs to try and push the Terran. He's the one that's taking all the bases. And sure, that means that he's going to have more money in the long run. But you can't let Terran get up comfortably into, you know, ghosts and nukes, because once you do that, they're just going to be able to start to harass all over the map the nukes. If you're not completely on it, can hit bases. If you're not, you know, constantly paying attention, can even hit your army. We've seen that happen to top tier Zergs like Solar. Of course, that is a bit of a meme, but still, it can happen. So Serral is trying to, find openings here. Is finally going to be getting into Broodlords. Decides that's the path that he wants to take. Can't get too many just yet. Has 3. Will have a total of 8 on the way with 4 lurkers. So adding on both tech paths at once, Serral has the money to be able to do that. But still, it's such a large ghost ball here from Cure. Already sitting at 14. And 11 Liberators. It just feels like there's not a lot that you can get done again. This is the old school comp. Ghost Lib. Ghost Liberator is what Terrans would use in the late game, because the Liberators can snipe Broodlords if you have enough of them. The Ghosts, of course, can come forward and use their snipes to actually get rid of the units. As the first nuke going down. Not going to get anything instead. Serral coming onto the other side of the map, tries to find Cure, overextending. It's not going to happen. +2/+2 for the Corruptors. Of course, the Broodlings already have +3/+3. They use melee upgrades. As the Lurkers try and push forward, but no, the 6 o'clock base, it's going to be so hard for Serral to take now, just because Cure knows that it's here. It's such a hard position to try and expand to. As we do have another nuke. This one should, again, be easily spotted. It's not layered on top of anything. Ooh, even gets the cancel. Very nicely done there by Serral. More nukes on the way, more command centers being added on by Cure, of course. Oh, as this game goes on, you're going to want to cut out SCVs from your composition, or you're not going to need them as much. Ooh, that's a good snipe there on the medevac. But you're not going to need SCVs as much, so just having that energy for scans, having that energy for mules if you do need money in a pinch. Having more CCs is always better in the late game, and already Cure, I think, is actually sitting at an incredible amount. 3 planetaries and, what is it? Trying to look for the orbitals. 8 orbital command centers. Queens managed to avoid the snipe, and you have +3/+3 for the Corruptors. Serral is keeping on this train of getting all the upgrades, has finally reestablished this 12 o'clock. It was being harassed earlier. As it has a very, very healthy Broodlord count, actually now sitting around 10. With the Vipers, with a few Infestors. Not too many, though, if you're looking at what there actually are for units. Only 5 Infestors, 3 Vipers, 1 gets sniped away. And a nuke gonna go down here on the Spore Forest that Serral has built up. Sacrificial Spore. But nukes going down everywhere. Cure absolutely using this late game Terran army to the best that he can. Lurker's gonna move forward though. And I don't think they actually have vision here, so another Spore should go down, even if a few Banelings die. More nukes coming down. Cure pushing all across the map. Catches the Spore Crawlers in a transition. You can't really push far though with just Bio. As you're gonna see, fungal growth goes down. Link's gonna be brought over. Great transfuse by Serral. Excuse me. But more nukes. These ghosts just being so annoying. 3 more nukes in production. Should be having one finish up soon here for Cure, who surprisingly is only just now working on his +3 ship weapons. Only has the single armory. No, does have 2 armories. But hasn't started ship attack +3, which is such an important upgrade to get right now. You know, just in order to have, of course, the Liberators and the Vikings doing extra damage. Scans go down. This nuke not going to be that impactful, and the other one actually was, I think, canceled in the end. But Serral's playing it carefully. Has a very large army. Has a very slow army. 15 Broodlords. No Lurkers to support it, of course, but 5 Infestors and 3 Vipers. That is the support. Serral's gonna start pushing with it. See that the ghosts are across the map. 14 workers have gone down for Cure. 15. I don't actually know where he's losing workers right now. Oh, Lurker harassment. So annoying. That Lurker, 8 kills already. Just burrowed there at the top of that gold base. Cure's not going to be able to mine from it. Oh, that fungal growth! Absolutely all of the Vikings get caught. Immediately a parasitic bomb. Oh, Cure not splitting right. Loses a few more Vikings than he needs to. And this is where it gets dangerous here for Cure. 24 minutes in. The Broodlord's pushing, and this is where, you know, tanks aren't going to be useful. This one tank that Cure has had for the whole game, mind you. He has had this tank for the whole game. Is finally going to die. Viking volley not going to be able to go off across the map. What's happening? There is a single ghost, I think that's... No, changeling. I thought it was a ghost, but you have nukes that are going to come down. They're going to try and zone away these spore crawlers. They're going to try and stop Serral from pushing. At the same time, you do have the planetary up here, or down to the 6 o'clock base that has been established. And there's still the single lurker. There's no mining from this gold base. Finally, a nuke's gonna go down to clear the lurker and the spore crawler. This is late game TVZ, ladies and gentlemen. As you have so many minerals, but you can just afford to use them all. Nuke goes down, the lurker's still alive. That's the kicker. But you still have Serral here pushing at the front, and right now, again, this is so nervous for Cure. You know, this has been a back and forth game one. This has been absolutely crazy. As we're 25 minutes in, both of them trading extremely well. Cure, I mean, for the past 10 minutes, has been trading incredibly efficiently, but he just doesn't have the bank that Serral does, because Serral has been on so many bases this entire time, and only now has Cure been able to kind of equalize on it. But now Serral's at the point where he can start to trade, and he's going to start to pick away at units slowly but surely. And this is, as the Terran, you need to find a good trade soon. You need to find some sort of, you know, snipes. You need to find some sort of way to answer this. And there is, of course, that large ball of 32 Vikings. Oh my, from Cure. And that's what he's really banking on. He's banking on these nukes, you know, stopping Serral from expanding, keeping these bases down. And if they can, then of course he's going to be in a great spot. But, you know, you just need so much time in order to do this. And time is not something that Cure's going to have on his side. You know, it's such a strong army right now from Serral. This whole game has been very slow, very methodical. And these are the types of games that Serral likes. These are the type of games that Serral strives in. And now the 6 o'clock base, you don't have your units in position. That's all it takes. The base is going to go down. Workers are going to die. Vikings moving forward. Sorry about that, as I had to sneeze. 2 Vikings going down. With Serral, it's a 10k mineral bank. It's almost 6k gas. Constantly reading these nukes. Constantly making sure they don't get damage done. This has been almost an impeccable game from Serral. There was maybe 1 or 2 missteps from Serral, you know, where he maybe lost a few more workers than he needed to, where he lost a bit more army than he needed to. But other than that, this has been almost a near perfect game from the NeXT Esports Zerg. Of course, again, 1 more misstep and it could cost him everything, because look at the army that Cure has. Sure, you know, it's not going to trade that well over time. You know, over time, it can be pushed, and it can constantly, you know, the spells casters that Serral has will do so much damage to it, but it's 34 Vikings. It's 11 Ghosts and 10 Liberators. If Serral missteps, if Serral pushes too far forward, if Serral gets a bit too greedy, isn't watching for 1 second, that army can collapse, the Focus Fire can come down, and Serral's whole army will melt away. You have additional nukes coming down here to clear creep. Cure, of course, extremely comfortable here in late game TVZ. You know, he hasn't made, I would say he also hasn't made too many mistakes. He's been continually getting more command centers, adding on sensor towers for vision, is at all the upgrades that he needs. Both these players, 3-3 across the board for every single one of their units. Aside from Cure, doesn't have the +3 weapon attacks, of course, does not have any tanks, does not need it. But the story of the game here is the bank, because if Cure manages to trade efficiently, if he manages to get a collapse where he cleans up the entire Zerg army, that would be awesome. But the issue is, do you have the bank to rebuild? Well, Serral does. Serral can rebuild this whole army. 11,000 minerals, 6k gas. He can almost rebuild this whole army. The only thing limiting him will be the gas. You know, the gas count, and we'll probably chew through all of it that he has left. And there's not much gas left on this map. I mean, look at the minerals. Only 1k, 500. All the other gas geysers are almost out. It's, you know, that's what's going to be limiting Serral here in this game, is the gas from rebuilding. But he has enough to rebuild his army at least once, perhaps twice. Again, if it comes down to a large fight where they're trading armies, Serral's the one who's going to be happy with that. Serral's the one who can rebuild. If Cure manages to get a collapse, again, if he manages to catch out Serral, not ready, not watching, then we might start to see something. But it's such a just string of events that needs to happen here for Cure. And all of it is dependent on this front. There's no more production going on. Both these players are maxed out. They're going to continue to max out on the exact same army compositions. Their upgrades are completed. We're 30 minutes into this game. There's not much more you can do production-wise. No more bases can really be added. You have these continued nukes, but they're actually not really gaining ground. Serral has been so good about just moving his score crawlers back, moving them back forward, replanting creep. Like, there's not been a single beat that Serral has missed in just adding on more spores and pushing this forest forward, in making sure that he's going to slowly suffocate Cure out of this map. And Cure, he needs the 6 o'clock base. It's so important to get this 6 o'clock base for the Terran. You're running out of minerals everywhere else. You're not going to be mining enough to continue to sustain losing, you know, trades against these Broodlords, who will always trade better unless you're able to collapse onto them. And what Cure is trying to do here, he's trying to push a few Vikings forward at a time. He's not, you know, moving his whole Viking flock forward, because if you do that, they're just going to get bungled. Parasitic bomb, everything's going to blow up. So you move a few forward at a time, you try and get volleys there onto the Broodlords. One gets sniped finally, but again, there's so much to rebuild here from Serral. What is there going on? Well, it's going to be this crazy fight where it's just a few Vikings trying to pick away at these Broodlords. In the end, they don't get much success. They end up dying. Cure does get a mule hammer down onto this base. I mean, what are the minerals like? What are the mineral patches like? There's so few for Cure. So little gas. This map is being completely mined out. I don't think I've ever seen this on Blackburn. Is the map being completely... Oh, Curie's going forward. All the Vikings with a massive surround, trying to move on forward. Oh, but the fungal growths are so good. The parasitic bombs coming down. EMP's trying to get the queens, but I don't know if it's enough. The supplies are dropping evenly, but that is not a good trade for Cure, as he doesn't manage to clear up the Broodlords. There's still 9 left. He doesn't clear up the infestors. They're just going to be rebuilt. I mean, Cure, sure, he manages to trade army for army, but again, look at this. Serral, the Remax doesn't even, it's not even dipping into his money supply. He's still sitting at so much. And it just goes to show how wonderfully Serral's handled this. Look at this, all the Vikings low health. There's not enough minerals and gas for Cure to really afford to repair them. Instead, he can't Remax. He does have 2k gas. You know, he has enough to rebuild. But that flock of 34 Vikings now down to 21. Cure thought he might have had the opening. That was not the case. He's used his bank. He got a little bit of ground. The bank is gone. And this is the last army that Cure is going to have to fight, is this selection of units. 8 Ghosts, 10 Liberators, 24 Vikings. Of course, the Marine Marauder on the ground can be very useful, with the fungal growths just completely eliminating the usefulness of it. And the Corruptor's going to push forward, and be able to get kills onto the Liberators. And you just can't push with the Vikings alone. You need the Ghost there. You need to try and EMP you need to try and EMP the Infestors, but again, Serral just plays this so well. It's so crazy to watch how well he's just constantly moving his army, moving his units, managing this late game army. I mean, Serral is the player who made late game Zerg what it is, who really showed the max that you can do, the most that you can do with this unit composition. And now, right now, he has 9k minerals in the bank, 6k gas. Cure is bled dry, and this might be the last fight. That's a massive fungal growth. The parasitic bomb goes down. All of the Vikings are gonna fall. And that's the spell combo that Serral was looking for. He can now push this. There's not much left here for Cure. Sure, it's 170 supply, but you just lost such a huge chunk of your Vikings. You're down to 14. The base falls. And with that, it might also fall Cure's hopes in this game one. 34 excruciating minutes of StarCraft 2. But Serral once again shows his prowess in this matchup, shows his prowess in the late game, where he really made his name. Of course, I mean, Cure knows, hey, I mean, Serral's also out of minerals. But what does that matter? What does that matter for Serral? It doesn't. He has such a large bank. Again, Serral didn't lose units. Serral traded so efficiently. He was so good with his army about making sure that he never lost more than he needed to. And now, I mean, Kier's going to try and push across the map. He's going to try and clear up these spore crawlers, and he'll be able to do so. And what Kier's trying to do is he's trying to force Serral out of position to find a good trade, but there's still 21 Banelings. This Ling Bane army has been the same one that we had earlier this game. Serral has just kept it alive. These are the same units that were alive, you know, halfway, 15 minutes into this game. This is the same kind of army that he's working with. He just kept some of it alive this entire time, just for this time, to be able to trade against the Marine Marauder if it's splitting across the map. Nuke is going to go down. What is there in the production tab? It's not much, is it? No, it's a medevac. That's all that Kier has the money for right now. This is, I mean, again, Serral doesn't want to overstep. He doesn't want to misstep, because if he does, then the game is over. But he even catches out a few ghosts. Oh, I mean, it was such a cool and well-played game from Kier, but it does not look like it was enough. All the ghosts are dead. There's not a lot of Vikings left. There's not a lot left here for Kier. Oh, the fungal growths go down. And this bio army is going to be caught out. Kier, of course, will fight with everything he has, but GG is called. He knows he doesn't have enough. Serral takes game one. That last game, ooh, that was... It took a while, but eventually Serral managed to pull out the win. Makes you worry a bit for Kier. Again, you're playing on the European servers here for these qualifiers. You already are at a disadvantage, and you try and take it to the late game. But that is where Serral is best. That is where Serral is, you know, one of the greatest of all time, is in that late game. That's where he's shown expertise so often and so many times before. Kier thought he might be able to pull it out. However, that was not the case. He was slowly bled dry. I mean, Serral with just pure efficiency. I would have loved to look at the resources lost. I actually forgot to while that game was going on, but I can't imagine it was actually even too much in favor of Kier by the end there. Even midway through the game, felt like, you know, Serral was the one who was trading better. Serral was the one who was, you know, even with the missteps that he made, like once or twice, he was the one that was constantly trading efficiently. And it does make you worried here for Kier in game number 2. How are you going to approach it? We're on to Hardwire. It's a much harder map to expand on. We're probably not going to see this game go to the late game, to the ultra late game, like we saw in game 1. Just because on this map, there's so many attack paths. So, of course, you have your natural base third, which will either probably go here, but most likely will go down here, because this only has this one pathway that you can attack from. But then after that, the rest of your bases are a bit sketchy to take, because if you expand here to this fourth, of course, you're going to have 2 attack paths to it. You even have a third if they come around from your own natural side. If you expand, and then if you keep expanding this direction, you have an extremely open base here as well. And the really only safe option is expanding down here to try and cut off the amount of counterattack options for the Zerg. And then if you expand up towards this direction, of course, it is probably, I think, a bit better, just because there's only one little small ramp here, and that's very easy to defend. So if you do end up going to the late game, you're probably going to see, I think, Kier expand in that direction. Does have 4 Marines pushing across the map, trying to catch any Overlords out of position, but Serral, of course, on top of it, didn't push his Overlord all the way across the map. He's just being safe and conservative. What do we have on the other side? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is the 3 racks. This is a build order that definitely has been popular with players like Bian, with trying to get pressure out on the map early, with just getting a lot of units, being very, very aggressive. It can do a lot of damage if the Zerg is not ready. However, I've seen Zergs handle this extremely well. There is a tiptoe point where you're trying to make this push happen. You have stim, you have combat shields, you have a lot of Marines. and you're pushing, you think you can get some more damage. If you keep pushing it too much, and the Zerg is able to get us around with Lings, is able to collapse on it with the Queens, and you lose all of those Marines, you suddenly give up all of your map pressure. You know, the Zerg is completely able to do whatever they want. They expand however they want, and it just is a very, very dangerous situation. Even see now, I mean, Serral knows exactly what he's dealing with. Already has a Baneling Nest on the way. Did scout in with that Overlord, I believe, actually right now. Serral, just vision-wise, only sees the one barracks. But if you're looking at this, I mean, you just see how many Marines there are. And of course, Serral's trying to hide them, but or Cure is, but there we go. Sees the 3 additional racks, or the 2 additional racks. So Serral should be completely in the know. Pneumaticized Carapace research just for this purpose, to make sure that he can go and scout it out. I mean, Cure was committing so much to trying to stop Serral from scouting that Serral knew something was going on. Something was up. He wanted that info. He's managed to get it now. 4 Marines at a time. You do have a fairly large chunk here pushing across the map. 23 Marines. They're going to have stim. They're going to have combat shields. You have a factory as a follow-up with an engineering bay in the wall. Cure needs to get damage done with this, but you already have Banelings on the way for Serral. I mean, Serral just stopped worker production at 44. He knows that he doesn't need more workers right now. He's going to have 3 bases. He just needs to defend the push, and that's absolutely the right call by Serral. This is absolutely what you should be doing in this case as a Zerg. In order to defend this push, look at this, even setting up the surround. You don't have any medevacs to get your army out. You just have the stim. And Cure, it's going to get surrounded. Cure, he just might lose everything. He's going to try and push through. The Zergling is going to try and keep cutting it back. The Banelings continue to chase. But you've already lost too much. And now Serral, again, you defend this first push with this build. You're going to push it across the map. As the Zerg, you absolutely have the ability to do so. You know that the Terrans, production-wise, is just going to have Marines. Oh, if he catches out the rest of these Marines. Could be absolutely massive. Yeah, Serral is just going to come back in. Grabs the surround. Banelings rolling on in. Target fire from Cure. It's not enough. All of the Marines picked off. This is a brutal start to game number 2 for Cure. I mean, sure, he's rebuilding. He's adding on different add-ons. He has a 3rd base on the way. But he's already down 20 supply. That is absolutely... I mean, the worst case scenario for Terran is you lose that entire clump of units without getting any damage done. And now you have, again, Serral immediately back into droning. Knows that he's a base up. He's going to be adding on a 4th pretty soon here, as well as getting into his Ling Bane upgrades. This is such a good spot for Serral. It's such a good spot. And for Cure, he's going to go up to 5 racks. He's going to be looking for a drop alongside his +1. And it's going to be scouted out, though. Serral. I mean, again, these little moves from Serral, even moving in these Overlords, knows absolutely everything that Cure is trying to do. And sure, he ends up losing them, but that's not going to supply block him. Already has more Overlords in production. And it's the +1 on the way for Serral. 3 waiting for about 150 gas and minerals. I imagine to start up through the Carapace. Cure pushing. Has 2 Widow Mines. Great on Burrow, though. He's going to be able to stop bringing too much damage done. Ooh, great connection there with a Widow Mine. And you do have Cure starting to catch up here in supply. Of course, you do have to consider the fact that right now Cure is, you know, adding on 5 barracks is completely into the production. He is just building units right now. There is not a lot of economy going on here for Cure. He's at 54 workers. He's oversaturated this natural, so he's going to probably transfer over a few workers into that 3rd base. There we go. He has managed to catch up to Serral, who is, you know, still, again, 77 workers, added on a 4th. And now getting on into the Ling Bane upgrades. +1/+1 for the Zerglings, centrifugal hooks for the Banelings to roll around at the speed of sound and to be absolutely that much more dangerous. Sonic the Hedgehog has never been this explosive. As well as the Infestation Pit. Baneling run-by is getting set up here by Serral. This is, again, even with Cure caught up in supply, he's still behind. And it does make you have to you just have to be scared. As the Terran, this is such a dangerous situation. Serral's expanding to a 5th. Has Burrow. Serral can even start to kind of experiment here with burrowed Baneling mines. Is something that we've seen in the past when Zergs have had a lead like this. Hydro's done on the way. Lurkers will be the choice here for, oh my god, Serral. It's so good. Oh, I mean, takes a big hit afterwards that he probably could have avoided, but still, the micro, it's just so good. And Cure is trying to push, you know, in multiple locations at once. And of course, he is clearing up creep, is the good news here for Cure. Is that you're able to clear up creep. You're stopping Serral from really getting across the map. But here we go, Baneling run by. It's been set up there for the past minute or so. And oh, Cure doesn't see it. That's, oh, disastrous for the Terran. 13 more workers go down. He's down 26 workers. Equal on upgrades. And sure, I mean, there's more army for Cure, but oh! There's so many Marines. And it just feels like Serral right now is just getting even more leads upon the lead that he already had. Resources lost barely in favor of Cure. Again, trying to push in multiple locations at once. Baneling's coming on in to explode onto the Widowmine, and actually a decent hit there. But Cure, he needs to take so many more trades like this, and Serral's continuing to do this hold position trick, where he holds positions, waits to see which unit the Widowmine is going to be focused on, and then just brings it away from the rest of his army. It's such a good move. And he's going to continue to do it. He has enough units where he can continue to do it. Cure cannot clear up the Lings fast enough. He cannot move forward to try and snipe those Lings fast enough to really stop that from happening. As the Baneling's moving forward, Medevac's gonna have to get them on out. The Focus Fire though from Cure is very, very good. Picks up the Marines. Can go into this small group to the side here to clear up creep, and we are gonna see the scan immediately. And Cure, I mean, again, you're just seeing Cure is good. I mean, he's making some amazing moves right now to try and get back into this game, but it almost feels all but hopeless. And I hate to say that, but Serral's just so good, and he's in such a good position this game. Already has the Lurker Den on the way, but it is +3 for Cure. Cure behind this, I mean, actually has gotten +2. +2 armor's gonna be finishing up pretty soon. And Serral hasn't started his. Serral's been focusing on just building units. Cure is gonna have very strong Bioforce, a very, very strong Bioforce. Now, does that matter when you have a lot of Banelings? Not really. Banelings do they don't really care about upgrades as much. They're still gonna two-shot Marines. In fact, they might even one-shot them. even with 3-3 versus 1-1, you know, it's still gonna be a lot of damage. And yeah, you just see Marines starting. I mean, the splits are amazing from Cure, but your Marines get one shot. It just does not feel fair. And now Serral's gonna push this across the map. He has equal army supply with Ling Bane. Has so much more to work with. It's also almost 2k bank. Serral's approaching maxed out. Cure right now only at 171 supply. Sure, he's established a 4th, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. Serral's attacking 2 places at once. Oh, Cure actually might be able to Widowmine drop there on top of the army, but here we go. I mean, the 4th is going down. 15 workers die. The planetary fortress dies. The drop is cleaned up. Cure defends one spot and one spot only, and across the map is cleaned up. I mean, has these drops everywhere. But Cure, he's just trying to focus on the front. He's not doing anything with them. This is... It's so painful. It's so painful. This medevac here, again, could go on into this base. Finally, we are going to see these Marines push forward, try and snipe off Queen, but Transfusion is a very, very good spell. Finally, the Marines drop down also into the main base. Should be able to pull back at least a few Zerglings as Cure is trying to push the front. Baneling's, though, going to roll on down. Oh, the splits just in time. Cure's main drop is going to get cleaned up. Here we go at the front. Baneling's pushing forward. A great pickup, an amazing Widowmine shot. Oh, but it... Another Baneling run by, though, with Lings as well. 4 more workers go down. And Cure manages to mitigate the damage, but he's still almost down twice the worker count from Serral. Serral's still almost maxed out. I mean, Cure's going to fight this, and Cure will probably make a very good case for it. But it just does not feel like it's going to go well. The Widowmine's just not getting good connections. That one, you know, it gets a decent hit, but when you're this far behind, it just does not feel like it matters. 18 Hydralisks on the way. Serral, a dominant performance in game 2. Compare this to a very close game one, but Serral just kind of slowly compounded his lead until he was in an unstoppable position. And this looks like it will be game. I mean, 60 supply down. All the micro in the world isn't going to save you. Even Maru loses from this position as the banelings are rolling through, crashing on in. The 4th base is going to fall again. Oh, maybe not. Cure has a lot of army. Gonna be able to hold on for now. For now. There's 8 lurkers on the way. I mean, yeah, Cure, he has to try and do something with this army, but it is just not, it's just not gonna happen. You're down 70 supply. GG is called. Serral gets the 2-0.